There's something that you might have noticed, and it's the use of the deep structure during protests. I'm Joshua Lisec. This is Daily Persuasion. I am the New York Times bestselling author and co-author, ghostwriter of 97 books, and a certified hypnotist. Through these unique experiences, I curate current events to teach you how to better influence the VIPs of your life and your career. You might have noticed these protests that are out there happening. They're protests against the Musk coup, against the totalitarian Trump regime, whatever people are saying. It's a little bit silly, but this is what they do. As you know, I spent a little time with Dr. Richard Bandler a few weekends ago. And I had some conversations with him about TDS, about some cult-like beliefs that some people fall to. And I noticed that in protests and online, in literal protests with their signs, and online, how left people, they will telegraph their intent via not empathy, but emotional projection. So, you know how the right will often say, the left are the real racists, and they always pop out their eyes like that to try to be convincing and persuasive, but the left doesn't care what you call them. Unlike the right does care what you call them, unfortunately. That's working less and less now, thankfully. I don't really care, Margaret. Or as Tom Homan said, that's a load of crap. We're going to enforce the law and we're not going to apologize for it. Remember that little formula I talked to you about a few weeks ago? In any case, coming back to what opened this video, there's a protest coming up called No Kings, March on DC or whatever, March on Dayton, March on whatever. They always have to march, right? Do a little production, marching like the Nazis did, really. Play that little game with them. So, but really what they mean is like the March on Selma, March to Selma, whatever, right? They're perma stuck in the 60s. They think everything is a civil rights issue, and it's "We shall overcome," they sing, and they have like the Black Power fist, and it's a little silly. But a lot of these people are actually hippies. They're really old now, crusty, and they're hippies. So they were actually marching in the 60s, early 70s. And here, all these years later, they're still doing it because they're stuck in that stage, right? Got their walker, got their DB, got all these things. So when they say no kings, they then praise these district judges, of which there are about 400 of them, who unilaterally usurp the will of the chief executive. Something to hear just happened in Ohio, where the people voted for legislators for both the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate. Both houses of Ohio's state Congress put forward this bill that bans mutilation of children with gender dysphoria, mutilation and castration, of course, that absolutely banning it. No, absolutely not for children. Children cannot consent to sex. They cannot consent to sex change. Period. End of story. Full stop. Perverts be gone. So what did the left do? Well, remember they say no kings? That's the surface structure. The deep structure is no kings, but ours. No kings, but ours. That's the emotional projection. Why did they say no kings? Accusations from a leftist are confessions of guilt. This is what we observe consistently. The male feminist accuses Donald Trump of being such and such sexual assault or whatever. Months later, a dozen women come out talking about what he really did to them in private. Every single time. Now, coming back to the no kings thing, we have democratically elected individuals saying, no, absolutely not. There will be no harming of children in Ohio. Get your filthy, grubby paws off the kids, you perverts. Remember what Jesus said about millstones around the neck? Okay? This is a serious matter. You keep your paws off the kids. This should not be even up for debate. It's insane. As a father, you don't You don't touch a child there, and you don't cut a child there. This is just so bizarre. This aligns with my belief that mandatory infant male circumcision needs to be banned nationwide. Absolutely banned. There will be no circumcising of male infants anywhere in the United States. Maybe we can start with Ohio. But you don't touch them there, and you don't cut them there. Full stop, period. This is BDE. This is Big Dad energy. Stop it. So, Ohio Senate and Ohio House recognize everything I've said. Yes, this is a no. So the bill goes forward. Well, our neighborhood rhino, Governor Mike DeWine, vetoes it. This is what they do. So then what happens? So here's this person acting like a king. I know kings. Okay, I'm going to usurp the will of both of my houses and say no. Fortunately, we were able to undo the usurping. We were able to override the veto in Ohio. Then what happened? Of course, you have a lawsuit come forward, because this is what they do, from the ACLU of Ohio, by the way. ACLU is sort of the enforcement arm of Planned Parenthood. And they profit off of, well, we know what they profit off of. Here we go, back to cutting children again. Preborn children, they count too, do they not? I have spoken at length about this. So they didn't lose that, so they appeal. And they just won the appeal. Yay, they celebrate. This is a great celebration for the rights of trans youth and LGBTQIA maps plus everywhere. Oh, really? So now you get to be perverts and cut on kids again? You get to chemically castrate them? And they're celebrating. There's a reason we call the book Unhumans, because this is what they do. They celebrate unhuman activity. They're literally unhumaning children. This is not a joke. They're taking children with gender dysphoria, brainwashing them, and unhumaning them in the most vulnerable way, in the most vulnerable state. Disgusting. Millstones. Now, this, of course, is king behavior. You have district court saying the will of the people, the will of both houses, to such an extent that they were able to override a veto, and a previous judge, no kings but us, is what they really mean. This is what's happening with judges saying, no, you got to put transgenders back in the military. No, you got to give all the money back to USAID. No, you got to fly those trained Aragua criminals back to the United States. It's really important. There was this whole story about this. I believe this Lebanese physician who was held and not granted entry back to the United States. Well, it was because during her interview, it turned out that she had attended, I believe this is the story, that she had attended, I believe it was a Hezbollah, funeral of a Hezbollah leader who had been killed. A celebration of his life and anti-Semitic legacy, an anti-American legacy of terrorism. And in this interview, she said that she had gone there, that she supported that, and that she continues to support that anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-Western viewpoint. Here's the thing, folks. If you hate America, I don't want you here. If you hate America, I don't want you here. You don't belong here. And yet there's this entitlement. I feel entitled to benefiting from all the goods of the West. And I want to bring in my anti-Western ideology that when it has power, makes all the benefits of the West go away. I don't want those people here. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care where they come from. I don't want you here. There are a lot of people in Australia right now and in England who are whiter than me and absolutely hate free speech. And they would do everything they can to undo free speech laws. I do not want you in the United States. You do not belong here. You are not American. You are not one of us. I think this sort of nationalism, when we're clear about what it is, what it means, it just makes sense. Now, on the topic of projection, emotional projection, and accusations as confessions, the left will say, "Oh, you're a nationalist. Oh, so you're like a fascist, right? So you're like a super racist." What they mean when they say this is, the only reason I would ever consider myself a nationalist is because if I was racist, and I'm kind of racist, so I could never be openly racist and therefore nationalist. So my tendency towards racism, I have to project onto you and call you a racist for being a nationalist. This is what they do every single time.